As a professional guide service, spend a lot of time planning our trips. That's one of the most important things that we can do, especially in the monsoon season where we do have some hazards that we need to account for. So just to start off, anytime we're going up into the Alpine, we want to make sure that we are limiting our exposure to potential heavy rainstorms, hail, etc., as well as lightning. So our general rule of thumb is that we like to be off of summits and heading back downhill before noon. Sometimes we bump that time up a few hours if there's forecasted weather. Other times we just won't go if it looks like there's a very high likelihood of weather. So that's our general rule of thumb. And then from there, we like to use a variety of different weather sources to plan. So a common one is going on to the NOAA forecast for the Telluride region. I'm looking at the general forecast to give us an idea of what we're going to expect to see that day, as well as diving into a more detailed written forecast to just continue to expand upon that information we garnered from the general forecast. From there, we like to use a point forecast that's commonly found a little bit below the detailed forecast. And we also like to dive into some of the graphs that the NOAA site has available and look at the hourly weather forecast. We find that gives us really good data on temperatures, both high and low. We like to look at forecasted wind speed, gusts, and wind direction. That gives us a good idea of what sort of flow we're expecting to see. And then also likelihood of any sort of thunder. So we're using all those resources and coming up with our own synopsis for what we might expect to see that day. As a guide, we are also expected to be able to communicate with our office should we need to receive an alert for weather, or if we have an emergency, we need to be able to call out and get that information out. So I carry a Garmin InReach with me. That Garmin InReach, I can actually pull my own weather forecast. I believe it is from NOAA through that device. But we are commonly in the habit of texting our office to get an update or texting a friend to get an update. Our office is also paying attention to the weather, and if they get a weather alert, they will send us a text via satellite to that device, and we're commonly checking those maybe every half hour to hour. So that's how we receive an update. So I've actually been in a close call where we had all of those combined. It was a storm that kind of came out of the blue. It got really warm really quick, and we had a lot of lightning activity. Clouds rolled in really fast, and we were up high on a ridgeline, which is really just not a spot you want to be. So instead of sprinting off the mountain, we felt like that was an increased risk where maybe we'd hurt ourselves in other ways, just trading one hazard for the other. Tried to keep calm, move down the ridge in a slow and meticulous manner so that we wouldn't injure ourselves and then really be in a bad spot. All the while paying attention, monitoring how close the lightning strikes were. And we were actually able to make it down to tree line and get in the trees before the lightning got close enough where we wanted to do, or to maintain the lightning position and get on top of our packs and make sure that we are just following best protocol in that sense. But it's definitely scary and something where we're really trying to plan ahead and not put ourselves in those situations if at all possible. Anytime we go out, we like to bring a medical kit. That's not necessarily to help with the hazardous weather, but it's one of those precautions. Should the hazardous weather affect you and you were to get injured, you really want to have that with you. We bring some sort of communication device so that we can communicate if someone were to get hurt or get hazardous weather outlooks from friends or family or our office, just to help us be more prepared out there. I also carry a bivy tarp. So it's a lightweight tarp that if you do have really strong winds or heavy rain, or someone gets really cold and wet due to these hazardous weather conditions, you can put a couple people under this tarp and help them warm up and get out of the elements. And then finally, just knowing what to do should you encounter lightning, what to do should you encounter some of these hazardous conditions, just to make sure you don't compound upon your problems and then add an injury to an already dangerous situation. So planning ahead and preparing is the most important thing that we stress for hazardous weather.